Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Talking Trade Live with On the Tools. My name's Andy. I'm going to be your host for the next half hour or so. I hope you had as much black coffee as me because I'm absolutely flying today. So this show's going to be lively. And I tell you what, 28th of January, there's a few things coming up deadline-wise with tax self-assessment. So what better person to have than Jaquetta from HMRC. Welcome back, Jaquetta. You surviving COVID?
Cheers, Andy. Yeah. No vaccination dates or anything yet. Hoping for them soon, but it's just a case of sit tight and keep waiting, isn't it?
That's it. Now, this is quite a good time to do tax advice because rumour has it we've got some deadlines coming up. But actually, when we chatted off air, not just self-assessment, there's a couple more.
There are indeed. And the first one that is a good one, or might be for a few people, remember the third self-employed grant that people could claim if they were self-employed?
Yep.
Most people claimed it back in beginning of December or very end of November, and it covered November, December, January. But of course, there may have been some people who weren't that badly off there and everything's been fine, but might have had contracts cancelled since, or they're having to be shielding, or they're in self-isolation or whatever. If you didn't claim back then, the deadline for claiming it runs out tomorrow. So, today and tomorrow are your last chances. But if you have had reduced demand, you're doing less work for whatever reason, please go and claim it if you need the money. If it is actually significantly affecting what you're doing and significantly affecting, your income, then please go and claim it. It's there. It will run out after tomorrow. So please go and do that. Get it out the way with if you need it.
Well, as you said, get it out the way. And I think, listen, this is a great opportunity for anybody watching. If you've got questions, I've been working with Jaquetta for blimey, it's got to be 5-6 years, and it's great advice. So listen, if you're sitting there scratching your head over filling in self-assessment or the grant or whatever it is, get on those comments and basically get any question to us, and I'll do my best to read them out. I think last week we had nearly 500, and I can't do that in half an hour. So please get comments in. Listen, tax, us trades, it's a bit of a swear word. Reality is we've got to pay it. So let's use this next half hour to get some questions over, and then we'll get as much advice to you as we can if it helps you out. Happy days. Now, one other thing. Adam Pickard, let's get straight into these.
Oh, no.
Adam only became self-employed in June. Do I need to fill self-assessment this year or next?
You don't need to do it this year. The year that the returns need to be done for, the ones that are due in Sunday, 31st, that's for the year to the end of March or 5th of April, 2020. So just when COVID first came in, if you can pin that in your minds, if you can remember that, just when we first went into lockdown number 1, it's the year up to that point of the current tax returns. So don't worry, Adam, you haven't got stress. Just make sure you've got your records, you're keeping them ready. HMRC, if you've told them so they know about you, and then be ready to do your next tax return when you're asked for it, which will be anything after April. So you can sort your paperwork out between now and April, and then do whatever you need to after April.
Good news there, Adam. I was going to say celebrate by going to the pub, but we can't because they're all shut. But open the can tonight. So good news, you don't have to jump on it. We got a few messages coming in about scams. Michelle Harker's asked, what's that scam? I mean, this time of year, you were saying, Jaquetta, there's more scams because everyone's panicking about self-assessment and grants. Can you just sort of go through what HMRC won't do, such as phone you up and say, oh, can I have your bank details? Send us some money.
Yes. A lot of the scams we're getting now are by text. So, the old-fashioned phone call does still happen. I've received one, which was quite funny. But a lot of them are now by text, and they will usually either say, you owe us some money, pay it now or else, or they will say, HMRC owes you some money, aren't you lucky? You've got £631.27 to claim. Just click on the link here. And it's that little bit where it says, click on the link here to claim or to pay. The minute you see that, it's a scam.
Can I just, sorry to interrupt, Jaquetta. Quite a few people are saying, just got a scam alert from your page. George, who's the brilliant producer that does everything to make this show work. If you can let me know on the private chat, George, because Michelle said it, and there's a couple of other people that have said that. So let's, this is ironic, isn't it? We're getting a scam on this page.
Yes.
He's just sent me. George is on it, everybody. So the other thing, I still get these emails, and you look at it, and it is funny amount, £672.27 HMRC owe you. But if you look at it carefully, most of the time the divvies can't even spell right.
Quite often they have got a lot better. The very early ones used to say things like Her Imperial Majesty's Tax Collector.
Yeah.
And used to be able to spot them very easily. Now they're almost always right, but very often they don't have your name unless your name is in your email address. They don't have reference numbers. But I say anything, whether it's a text or an email that says pay here or claim here and gives you a link, will be a scam. We don't do that.
Kieran Lewis, when's the next grant? Lots of question marks. He's obviously keen on getting it in his bank account.
Absolutely. It will apply for February through to April, but the Chancellor hasn't announced what it's going to be or how it's going to work yet. So whilst they've been fairly similar, but not exactly the same, the three grants, if you remember, the middle one was 70% and the reasons have changed slightly. We don't have that detail and we won't have it straight away from what I gather. I did try and find out before I came on today, but it's not available yet. Presumably they're still deciding. So it could be a little while before it comes out. As I say, the current grant runs up until the end of January. So the next one will come after that. And if you remember, they were, sort of 3 months-ish in between each claim. So I would imagine you won't actually be able to claim it for another couple of months.
One other thing, David Flinton's asked quite a valid question, because I haven't got a clue on this. Do you get taxed on grants that they've received?
Oh, in grants in general, the answer is it depends. But if you're talking about COVID type grants, then the answer is yes. The grants that HMRC is giving out are to replace your business income because you're not getting your usual business income. So they could be grants for the self-employed, in which case they go in instead of the income that you would have earned had you been able to work normally. So they will just go into your accounts, and next year's return will have a little bit that says, how much was the COVID grant that you actually claimed. And then we'll be able to check that, you've not missed it out by any chance or overstated it, because we don't want that either. And employers who have received payments for furloughing staff, that's part of their business income. And for them, if they actually furloughed people back in March, that might actually appear in their business accounts this year for the year tax returns that are just coming in. But it will only be that little bit, those couple of weeks in March if they claimed then. But so, yes, it is part of your taxable income. It comes to you because of your business, and it's like a substitute for income. So it goes in to be taxed the same as income. But of course, if you are earning less, which you're supposed to be to claim the grants, it will just help to top that back up, hopefully to something like what it should have been for that period. If you're lucky, it might be a little bit more overall, who knows? But for a lot of people, of course, they've had to stop totally for weeks on end. So they may actually be a lot worse off at the end of the year, be a lot less tax to pay or no tax to pay.
Well, Dan,
threshold, it will be nothing to pay.
Dan J. Greenstreet has made a comment that I think a lot of people are agreeing with. If the grants are taxable and you haven't been trading to be safe, how are they expecting to pay the tax?
Well, depending on how much grant you got, there might not actually be any tax to pay anyway. Because, of course, if you've just been living off the grants over this year that we're actually in now, you probably won't have got enough to be paying tax at the end of the year. So it will depend on how much you've earned from other people and how much you've just got in grants. But there may, because you do get your 12,500 you earn without paying any tax.
Right.
So, that will be taken into account like it always is.
Yeah.
So that hopefully will help out people who've been really broke over the last year. Next year's tax, or no, not next year's, the tax which is due in a few days' time. Let's talk about that. That's the easiest way to describe it. You'd normally be making a payment on the 31st of January when you've got your tax return in. And we do know that people haven't got the money at the moment, and we don't want to put people out of business. So we are being relaxed about payment to the extent there's a couple of things you can do if you can't pay, if you have got tax to pay and you can't. Firstly, if it's just your self-assessment debts for like this last year, and it's under £30,000, which for most people it will be, you can go online and automatically spread that over the next 12 months. So that will help your cash flow.
Is there interest on that?
There is always interest on late tax, I'm afraid, but of course the interest rates are really low at the moment anyway.
So if you're struggling, there's a good option there of not going to the bank or extending your overdraft. For, as you say, interest rates are going to be good because the base rate is virtually zero. So
yeah, exactly. So
John Littlewood,
the other
sorry,
thing, the other
sorry,
thing is,
yes,
if you've got more debts than that, and you might have VAT debts and all sorts of other bits and pieces, you can phone us up about time to pay, and we'll come to something that actually suits you. The first one is automatic; it's 12 months. As soon as we've got, but we do need your tax return in, so we know what your tax bill is. So make sure you get that done.
So everybody get that in, and then HMRC will work with you to pay
it out.
Rather,
absolutely. And then if there's wider debts or it's over 30,000, it's talk to us and we'll sort out what it will be. It might, depending on how much it is and what you can pay, it won't automatically be 12 months. But we are not trying to put people out of business. And what we would say is it's much better to know. So contact
be honest,
us, find
people.
out. Yeah, and be honest what you think you can pay, what you don't think you can pay, what your bills are. What's realistic. As I say, we're not trying to put people out of business, and we don't want people going to loan sharks or feeling suicidal or anything like that. We actually want people to get through this. We have found when we give people time to pay that most people do actually pay it. They might be paying late, but they do actually pay it. So it's not as if this money is going to be thrown away. We do know that in practice people genuinely want to pay, they just can't actually pay here and now. So that's what we're doing.
Loads of questions, Jaquetta, so I'll fire them at you as quick as I can. John Littlewood, is it true HMRC have extended the time to file your return until the end of Feb? He saw an article in The Guardian.
Almost. The tax return is still due in on Sunday, but normally we charge a penalty as soon as it's late. So the £100 penalty automatically as soon as it's late, if that's the first time it's late. If it's the third time or more, it can be more. But if it's the first time you're late, it's £100. What we've said this year is we're not going to charge that £100 so long as your return is in by the end of February. It will still be late, and we'd recommend you get it done now so we can sort out everything else. But if something happens, we know that most of the reasons will be COVID. So we've always had provision for people to say what is called reasonable excuse. For instance, if you had to go into hospital at the last minute just before your tax return was due in, we would always say, so long as you've sorted it out afterwards, that's okay, we'll take the penalty off your record. This year, instead of putting 1 million penalties on people's records, 1 million people phoning us up and saying, help, COVID, I was told to self-isolate, whatever, and us saying, okay, we'll take it back off your record. We just said we're just not even going to put any on until after the end of February. So long as your tax return is with us by the end of February, we won't charge that penalty. It is late, but we won't charge the penalty. We won't put you through making an appeal and all the rest of it.
Oliver Oakes, will I be able to claim the February to April grant if I've only got one self-assessment, 2019-2020?
We don't know yet, is the short answer. We don't know exactly what's going to go into the next time round. Of course, we will have had a load more tax returns in, but until the Chancellor tells us, what grant number 4 is going to be, then we don't know, and that's when we start actually getting everything in place. So I don't know exactly what it will be. It may be. I honestly don't know the details.
Sorry, Jaquetta. Thank you everybody much for sending in comments. If you just joined us, tax advice, HMRC, self-assessment. We're going to touch upon reverse VAT a little bit later. Keep the questions coming in. This is free advice. Make the most of it. Jaquetta's brilliant. We're going to get given the answers you need, not some wishy-washy stuff from an accountant that may be right or wrong. No offense to my accountant, Fraser, if you're watching.
Some are brilliant.
Yeah, some are good. It's like anything, isn't it? Trade. Some of us are brilliant, some of us are rubbish. Peter Denny, is there anything out there to help new business? I just started my business and reported as self-employed trader in September.
There aren't any grants that we know of at the moment. And the grants are normally based on the money that we already know about in our computer systems. And of course, we won't have anything on you. There may be, without knowing your business details, there may be something from the local authority. There can be other bits and pieces. But there is the gov.uk website does cover all of these. So HMRC is a little bit within it. But what I'd suggest is you go on there and see if there is anything that comes under one of the other people that's not HMRC. There's not kind of a general grant for anybody just because they're starting up a business.
Brilliant. Nils Morpeth, Sounds Scandinavian, mate. Good name. Not been eligible for any government help through 1819 return being after the April deadline. Please help. Is there anything else I can do?
I would say get your tax return in, talk to us about time to pay if you need it, and hang on for the announcement about the next grant, as that's the best I know at the moment, because as I say, we don't know what the new one's going to be. It could very well be that there is something in there for you. We just don't know yet.
Great. Peter says, thank you, Giulietta. Just very quickly, reverse VAT. There's been all these, well, I wouldn't call them trade bodies, these marketing agencies where you join and you get meant to get extra work, all in the press. Let's delay reverse VAT. Oh, it's awful. Well, it's been delayed twice and it's happening, isn't it? Let's just get everybody on board and work towards it.
Yeah, it's happening, and it's the 1st of March it comes in. So, you've got a month to sort yourself out. If you're not VAT registered, you can just tune out for a little bit at the moment. You will get asked questions by people you do work for, possibly, because they will need to know if you're VAT registered. But it's for where both of you are VAT registered, the people you're working for or you're getting to work for you. And unless one of you is an end user, and that will vary from job to job to job. So every job you'll have to either ask or answer that question about being an end user. So everyone will have to do that. Your invoices will have to look different. So again, however you do your invoices, you've got to take that into account. They might need to have a declaration on them about reverse charge. So you need to, you've got a month to sort it out. There's software out there that can do a lot of this for you that's been built in, but you need to talk to the people who've got your current software to make sure you've got the latest version that's got it in.
And watch out for the scam on software, because I nearly clicked on something the other day.
Yeah.
Lots of questions. Heidi Eldridge, is there any help for small charities, as we haven't had any fundraising income for a year now? Lots of people in that boat.
No, if you are a registered charity, if you're not already in, you should be thinking about gift aid. There is normally with the bigger charities, they have to do quite a bit of record keeping around gift aid. For the smaller charities, I'm not up to date. It was £5,000 was the limit they could I can't remember if it's claiming gift aid or donations in gift aid. But I believe you can go back more than the 1 year. So you might want to look at previous year's donations. And if you haven't already claimed gift aid, see about that. And I have to say, I'm one of the lucky people I've been working throughout. I'm not paying for travel. I am giving to charity more because I know they need it. And for those people who can afford to, there are an awful lot of charities out there that need our help at the moment. So good luck with that, whatever it is that you're doing.
Brilliant. Thank you, Heidi. I hope that helps. Rob Hart, he's claimed a grant, but I've managed to keep trading. However, I've had customers postpone or cancel. God, haven't we all, mate? But I've been told that I may be found to be illegible for it now. Made me feel like a criminal. So Rob's done the right thing.
You have done the right thing. The requirement is for the third grant, it's been very slightly different words each time, but the third one, that you had reduced demand. So if you've got customers cancelling or postponing, you're not doing as much work as what you would normally be doing, so you can still claim. So that is not a problem. One of the earlier ones just said reduced profits, so you could be working flat out but just have higher expenses. Whereas the latest one, it was reduced demand. You could be self-isolating, you could be only able to do 5 jobs a month instead of 10 jobs a month because of social distancing, or because customers drop out, or you've got kids at home, all sorts of reasons why COVID means that you've got less demand for your work, or you can do less work than you would otherwise do. And it sounds like from what you've said that you are totally fine. That's all we want to know. It's the people who, not in construction, but if you think about takeaway businesses, some of them are actually getting even more money in than they were beforehand. So we wouldn't be expecting them to claim, because it hasn't reduced their demand. If they're getting just as many people ordering from them, then it's not affecting them and they shouldn't be claiming. They're the people that we're talking about there, not the people who are losing customers and maybe working a bit more slowly and all the rest of it.
AD Ives, I'm asking this because I'm exactly the same as you. Is there anything available for us limited company directors? Because I've had the square root of bugger all. I know there's 820,000, I think, in the same boat. Giulietta, you will jump to the top of my Christmas card list if you can get us limited company directors something, because we've had nothing. I'm eating beans.
Have you paid yourself a salary at all?
Yes, I've paid myself. I'll be honest, I think a lot of us do this. From what I've spoken to a lot of friends, especially obviously, in construction, pay myself just over 700 quid a month below the tax threshold and do the rest in dividends.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm getting a bit bored of beans on toast.
Yeah, if you're like all employees, because you're an employee as well as running the company.
Yeah.
It's officially employee and office holder, but a director is an employee. And you are not working, so it's just like furloughed, effectively.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can do things to keep your limited company ticking over, like send your tax returns to Companies House or, tax returns to us, that type of thing. But if you are generally not working for a few weeks, you can furlough yourself and claim the job support scheme. JRS it's called, job retention scheme payment, the furlough payment, if you are paying a salary, because that's what it's based on. If you've been paying yourself in dividends, you can't claim anything for that, but your £700 a month or whatever it was that you said, if you are generally not working and you meet the criteria, there's a certain number of days you have to be not working, and that information has been sent into HMRC at some point during the dates that are required. It ran at the first lot were up to the 23rd of March, but of course a lot of people paid themselves once at the end of the year, so they fell out. Yeah. But if they then paid themselves between then and 31st of October, I think it was, might be 30th of October, and we had a return for them in that period, that information could be used. If your returns are going into HMRC monthly, but you have to furlough yourself a part of that period because you're sitting twiddling your thumbs for whatever reason due to COVID, you can furlough yourself and claim the furlough payments.
But it's only that percentage, 70-80% of the 700 quid. If you give yourself a top up of £1,000 or a couple of grand in dividends, you can't
there isn't any help for that.
You could be the most loved person in the world, Giulietta, if you could sort this out for us, because it's been a rough year.
I don't want to be the chancellor.
No, I don't think anybody does, bless him. No. Sorry, just going through these comments. Please keep questions coming in. As you can see, Giulietta is brilliant at this. It's free advice. We've got deadlines coming up. Ask away. Gareth Ella, if we've claimed 3 grants due to the loss of work and earnings, and when we get to the end of the year, have actually gone over the amount we'd normally trade due to a good job on price, will we be penalised or have to pay any amounts back? That's a good question.
No, if you voluntarily want to pay something back, that's up to you. We haven't said the maximum you can claim is, say, £3,000, but do you only want to claim 2,000? We haven't done that. But people can, if they really want to, they can pay some of it back. That's up to them. What we would say is, so long as you have met the criteria each time you've claimed, and so they were slightly different. One just said reduced profit. The latest one talks about there being significantly reduced demand. So long as you've met those criteria, you won't get asked to pay anything back. What will happen instead is that if your profits would normally have been, say, 15,000 and they're now 17,000 because you've got the grants as part of your income, you'd be taxed on that bit anyway. So we'll have a little bit back in tax, but we're not going to ask you to go through actually reclaiming the whole grant. So long as you submitted your claim honestly at the time, with the rules that applied at the time, that's fine by us.
Gareth, I hope that helps. A lot of people asking, obviously just joined the show, maybe a bit late. Ant Hopkins, Liam Smith and others. Is there a 4th grant? As Giulietta said, at the moment we don't know because there's been no announcement.
There will be a 4th grant. We do
know
there will be. We just don't know what it is and when.
Right, but realistically, judging by the previous ones, probably the next week or 2 we'll get an announcement by the sounds of things.
Yeah, the claim, since this one's only just expired, the claims may not be for another, I don't know, 6 weeks, 2 months, whatever. Because of the timing. There's been about 3 months between each claim. The last one was back at the very end of November, beginning of December. It opened up for claims. So if you count 3 months forward, that's not for a little while yet. So, but as I say, we don't know the details. So we don't know when it's going to be out.
Gareth, you're more than welcome. Sorry to hear you're another one that's not working, but hopefully, as you say, you've met the guidance, you can get some support. Thanks for the good question, and pleased we could help. Now, moving sort of on to other bits and pieces, Jaquetta, we've obviously keep comments coming in. I'm going to
Yeah.
go through them all. The reverse VAT is happening, so please don't believe anything else. I think we touched upon it last time, but it's now confirmed that it is happening 1st of March. So it's very easy to moan and have a whinge about it, but it's happening. So get on the HMRC websites, the web chat, and even YouTube. Put it in and learn about it. And I was going to say, Jaquetta, if people aren't sure, I know we say this every time. Every time I interview you, it's the same. But there's a lot of information out there. People just need to look for it. It's web chat, it's YouTube. What's the best ones rather than being on the phone for 3 days?
Right. What I'd suggest, if you're really not sure, there is we do run webinars which are like live presentations, whatever you want to call it. There are some live ones coming up, but in the meantime there's at least one pre-recorded one, so you might want to watch that. You can sign in and watch that, and then you can think about your questions, and if you need to, go on a live one and ask your questions live.
So just Google
HMRC
webinar.
HMRC webinar, and that will give you, you might have to scroll up and down a bit, but it's definitely there for business. The other thing I would say is they are 2 good flowcharts to decide whether you have to apply or not. One is for the buyers and one is for suppliers, they're called. So depending on whether you're, providing the services or buying somebody else's services in, and it says, does it apply in these situations? Things like, is the other person VAT registered? But it goes through each of those questions. They're really nice and simple to follow. You have to do that for every job. So after a little while, it will become obvious. But if you're really not quite sure in the meantime, then I would say go to their simple search, HMRC reverse charge. And that will take you straight into the latest stuff. It came out, there we go, 24th September last year. It's not been updated since then. But if you see that date, it was the top of my list when I looked this morning, HMRC reverse charge. And that will give you what you need to know and remind you of all the things that you need to do. But if you can, have a quick chat with your accountant, although not right at the minute when they're doing self-assessment returns, please, because they probably won't appreciate it. Talk to your software providers, but get it in place for the 1st of March, please.
And the great thing is the wonderful George producer in the background. God, he's sharp, isn't he? He's putting links in the comments now, which will take you straight through, as you can see, reverse charge technical guide. So brilliant. He is sharp. Look at that. Yeah. Straight on. What would we do without George in the background? Producer George. I'd be chatting to myself in this van. I know that. Right. What do we got left? About 5 minutes. Daz Lease. Few people asking this, so it's good to hear your response, Jaquetta. I haven't been eligible for a grant because I only became self-employed in October 2019, and I was employed before that. Is there any help for people like him?
There hasn't been anything until now, but as I say, we don't know what the 4th grant will bring. So I'm not promising anything because I really don't know. But, we'll just have to wait and see on that one. Otherwise, there hasn't been anything specifically just because you're self-employed coming from HMRC.
Now, I think the main thing which tradespeople and the word tax is, it's a bit like a disease to us. It's not something we're great with. And obviously you have this word cash. Now, cash seems to be disappearing. I sadly think we're going to go to a cashless society over the next few years. A lot of people, and I haven't read them out, a lot of people have sort of said, just earn cash and don't pay your tax. Sadly, you can't spend your cash. That's the other thing. If you've got 10 big ones sitting under your bed, these days you can't spend it. So I think the best thing is to do, listen, it's there. We need to pay our tax. The NHS, when you go to that hospital, if you've fall off the scaffolding, you want it to be there. And, it's at the end of the day, let's get on board with this and do it properly. There's no point in moaning and whinging about it because that's not going to help anybody. Dan J. Green Street, another question, Jaquetta. Will the credit rating, I like this a lot. Will the credit ratings given by the banks against the self-employed for taking the grant be lifted? Brilliant.
Oh, no idea, because that's not actually HMRC.
That's credit rating companies, is it?
Yeah. And I don't know
that comment, Jaquetta. The grant is now a red flag for mortgages.
I wasn't aware of that, but what I would say is that will be for government to decide, really. That might be something to write to your MP about and have a little hint to say that it shouldn't be taken into account because it's what the government have been advising people to do. So
well, I mean, this is almost another topic for another day. Bloody hell, how many people have taken a grant and now they can't get a mortgage on the advice from government? Dan, please keep the On the Tools page updated with how you're getting on, or anyone else if you've got a grant or taken a grant and you're applying for a mortgage, because yeah, let's work together on this. Lee Boyden, my CSCS, oh, we love those cards, don't we, all us trades, ran out during COVID-19, so I couldn't work, but I've gone on Universal Credit and have still made claims for a size grant and have been accepted. Is this trouble for me in the future?
Assuming you're going to go back on the tools as and when you can, no, it's not. What we would say, if you are stopping a business altogether, then you should stop claiming. But if you are simply stopping because you can't do anything else and you're going to go back to it when the work's there again, that isn't a problem as far as we're concerned. Just get your Cs renewed. That's the only other thing. Get your Cs renewed, rather.
Well, thank you ever so much. I've suddenly looked up and it's gone half an hour. I don't know where time's gone. Apologies if I didn't read out all the questions, but as you can see, we only have half an hour. Oh, sorry, I do want to jump back on this because Dan said another comment. The original statement from the government was it wouldn't. Banks have now taken their own initiative to overturn that. Dan, keep us updated on that, because listen, we're all in the same boat here, mate. I'm about to apply for a mortgage, and well, if that's the case, let's work together. And listen, On the Tools has got a big reach. If we can get advice and get people help, then that's what we're here to do. We're not just an information show. So thanks ever so much, Giacchetta. The good thing is with this live show, it is also now a podcast available on Monday from all podcast providers. So the good thing with that, if you've missed it or you want to watch it because there's a bit of advice that someone mentioned, go and watch it. Running alongside this, I've got my own podcast called Build It, which goes out on Sunday at 5 p.m. Works together really well with On the Tools. And my first guest, I'm not going to say who he is, but he's very well known in construction. And we put a few things to rights in poor old Giacchetta's government. We might have a little bit of a pop at them as well. But thanks ever so much for watching. As I say, jump on the podcast from On the Tools on Monday if you want to watch this again. Giacchetta, as usual, fantastic advice. Thanks ever so much. And I think we'll be seeing you again in a few weeks because obviously we've got more deadlines to approach, and what better person to have than you for advice. So thanks ever so much. I was going to say I'm going to shoot off now and go back to the job, but we can't because the planning office has been delaying our application again because civil servants are at home. Don't you just love them? Good news is, everybody, a few more questions. The fourth grant's happening, but it will be TBC'd in the next couple of weeks. So look forward to that. But more importantly, keep safe, and we will see you same time next week.
And get your tax return in.